Hello, and welcome to OnLogic Live. I'm Derek Fan, OnLogic Communications Manager, and your host for today's event, A Vision for the Future. Today, we have a pair of conversations to share with you. First up, we'll be hearing from OnLogic Product Manager Max Garrison and Johnny Chen, Edge AI ISV Account Manager at Intel. They'll walk you through a few of the key elements involved in taking Vision AI projects from ideation to deployment. Following that, I'll be joined by OnLogic's Director of Product Enablement, JP Ishak, to dig into more about the role of hardware in AI projects. We'll also be happy to answer any questions you have, so be sure to leave them in the comments, and we'll get to as many as we can. You can also join the conversation over on Twitter using the hashtag OnLogicLive. Thanks for tuning in today, and without further ado, Max, Johnny, take it away.
Hi, my name is Max Garrison. I'm a product manager here at OnLogic, and today I'm joined by Johnny Chen.
Hi everyone, my name is Johnny Chen. I am an Edge AI ISV Account Manager at Intel, specifically focused on Edge AI.
Great. So we've been working very closely with you, Johnny, and with Intel to enable our customers to deploy AI solutions at the edge. It's a really fast-growing area. There's a ton of exciting work. We want to talk about some of the applications, some of the challenges, and maybe some of the future exciting technologies that we're going to see. When our customers are trying to deploy AI solutions to the edge, it's a really difficult thing to go from a prototype, a POC, to full deployment, especially in the rugged environments that we see. Maybe talk about some of the challenges that you've experienced with customers to try to do that.
I think one of the biggest challenges we see is, you're absolutely right, when someone's at the lab, they have lab systems, they have servers, they have unlimited compute, they have workstations. Well, how do you take that and move into a challenging environment? Exactly what you said, at the edge, right? You're at the edge where you don't have the best power. You might not have all the power you want. You have limited compute. You have to deal with high availability. You need availability at the edge. Or you have limited bandwidth or limited internet connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the big challenges. And you have to look at, if you look at AI as a whole, the entire AI pipeline from beginning to end, inference is only one small part of the entire equation.
Yep.
You have to look at, how does the data come into ingestion, the processing, the inference of the data. But then after that, it's all about storage. It's all about time series database, about dashboarding, putting the data back to the user in an understandable way. So this is the entire AI pipeline that customers have to understand. How do you go from the lab to the edge? And I think that's where it gets interesting, is because we have a great partnership, Intel and OnLogic. You've taken our core technology of processors and XPUs, and you've put them into form factors like this Carbon 800, as well as others that really are designed for scalability at the edge. So understanding the workload to how it's deployed is the key to go out of POC and to production and scale.
And when someone is trying to kind of benchmark an AI system, they might be doing, again, a lot of that work in the lab where you could have access to essentially unlimited compute. If you're in the cloud, you just spin up another GPU instance, you run it. But when you move to the edge, you're going to be on fixed hardware, most likely. What are some methods or tools to really help people right-size the AI solution if they don't have the experience going all the way to the edge at first?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways you could do this, right? One is once you understand your workload and what your performance KPIs, you can use Intel Dev Cloud to actually test out your workload in the cloud. And the best part is, in the cloud, we have partners like OnLogic that have systems there in the Dev Cloud. Having the exact system that you will deploy at the edge actually gives you that advantage. You could test your exact workload on that hardware before you get to deployment. And that makes it a lot easier for the customer to actually right-size that hardware.
Yeah, so in the dev cloud, it is essentially a cloud, but it's made up of real hardware that you would deploy at the edge. So OnLogic has systems in the Intel Dev Cloud. You can run it on an OnLogic system, really validate that it works with that workload, and then get that same system and deploy it to the edge, and you've already validated that it works.
Exactly. And the idea is all these tools help you streamline that process. Intel also has other tools like OpenVINO. In our new release, OpenVINO 2022.1, we actually have an auto mode. So after you take your model and you run it on the OpenVINO inference engine, there's an auto mode that you could actually enable, and it will actually pick what is the best inference processor. What is it? Is it the CPU? Is it the GPU? Or is it Is it the Movidius accelerator?
Mhm.
Things like that. It's all about XPU. It doesn't matter where it runs, just where it runs best.
Yeah, because OnLogic offers a variety of hardware. So we have the Carbon 800, which is kind of our mid-level system in our range, where even this can have that wide variety of XPU, right? A lot of different accelerators, CPU, integrated GPU, discrete GPU, FPGA, Movidius, lots of options. And then you can go down the stack to like our CL200 with Movidius, or up the stack to edge servers, a lot of options. But OpenVINO kind of makes that essentially seamless to bridge across those different technologies, right?
Exactly. It's the whole idea is code once, deploy everywhere. So you put it on the hardware that is right for your specific application or right for that environment. You wouldn't want to take a server room system and put it at the edge where it's all dusty and not the best environment. It's going to fail. And this is all about right sizing.
Yeah, I mean, we like purpose built Carbon 800 for the edge. So it's a rugged system. It can go on a vehicle. It can have LiDAR input, and it will withstand the shock and vibration, the high temps you'd expect in edge environments, where if you took maybe the lab equipment that you use to develop your ML, maybe the desktop with a gaming GPU or a rack mount server, you can't put those at the edge.
Yeah, it's going to fail. And that's where I think the partnership works so great is because we want to work with partners like OnLogic that understands the difficulties of the edge. You guys are dealing with customers all day long that are at the edge, at these difficult environments. And you guys understand that. So you're taking our core technology and really wrapping your know-how and creating a unique system for that scalability and production. If you look at the production environment of today, not only does the system have to be reliable, but a lot of these systems have to be on HA or high availability because they cannot go down.
They're mission critical.
They're mission critical. You lose a system, you lose the whole factory.
Yep.
And now you're talking about huge losses that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you have kind of that scalable infrastructure and maybe you're in a location where you don't have the connectivity, you can't just kind of have a redundant cloud instance. You need, tough hardware that's going to stand up and that can continue to operate in those tough environments. Yeah, mission critical. If it goes down, the losses that then could extend from there could be huge, especially for a really important factory with maybe a really sensitive process.
And that's exactly right. And also, if you look at the edge compute that's happening today, more and more we're moving to the edge because more decisions are made at the edge. Vision data by itself, it's actually pretty useless if you think about it because it just tells you, hey, this failed, this is good, this failed, this is good. But when you combine data from the machine itself, from the PLC, from sensors, from all these different things together with the vision data, now you have process. Now you can audit the process. You can say, hey, when this part is bad, what were the settings? What were the things that made this part bad?
Yep.
And you can correct those. And all those decisions has to be made at the edge. So it can be done faster and in real time.
Yeah, and I think some of the unique applications you see are turning these systems into dynamic adjustment. So you have machine vision to kind of understand the product that's coming off the line. It can tell what the defects are, but then it also has that control of the rest of the system behind it to adjust PLCs, maybe account for the humidity in the factory and adjust the extrusion process. All of that can be dynamic because you have that power at the edge and you can do it instantly, low latency, which is critical, right, for edge compute.
And the best part is, beyond the edge compute, once all this data is gathered, you could actually put it up into the cloud from other machines. And you start correlating data. You start seeing trends. You start seeing a story. And now you could prove efficiencies, not at just one site, but across your entire enterprise.
And how about when customers are trying to deploy these technologies? I mean, that platform sounds like it'd be extremely complex to build and integrate. Are there any software developments that would make that easier on the software and implementation side?
Absolutely. I mean, Intel beyond OpenVINO, there's a lot of other toolkits we offer. One is a reference design that we have. We call it Edge Insights for Industrial. It's a reference software stack. Everything from data ingestion and vision ingestion to inference to time series database to dashboarding. It's an entire reference design that we give free of charge to our customers to take and then make their own product and come up with for their specific solution. They can take that and build their vertically specific solution that they want.
And I think when we work with customers, they're in a huge wide range of industries, right? Are there any examples that you can give of maybe somewhere where you wouldn't think AI is taking place that you've been excited to help enable?
Well, it's funny because it's not the question for the entire industry is not if they'll use AI, but when. So one interesting area is actually fast food. Fast food can take advantage of AI in ways and improve the customer experience without the customer even knowing it. So if you have a restaurant, let's say a fast food restaurant, you have cameras throughout the drive-thru as well as inside the restaurant in the kitchen. One is you could actually know how many cars are lined up compared to how many people are in the restaurant lined up to order. And you can actually do micro forecasting. Now, if you think about it, almost everyone orders fries with their burgers. So by knowing how many people are lined up, you can actually forecast how much French fries I have to make in the restaurant and get it pretty right. The second thing is no one likes soggy fries, right? Getting bad fries is one of the worst things you could do at a fast food place. So having these cameras, you can actually track the quality of the food. When the fries were made, how long was it there? Was it there too long? Should you just throw it away before you serve it? These are all things to improve the quality, improve the customer experience. And the best part is it not only improves the customer experience, but it also improves the experience for the enterprise because now you're more efficient and you have a better service and you actually have data points of how all your restaurants are doing.
Yeah, I'm imagining in that situation, to replace how AI is actually impacting that business, you might need like a control room filled with people monitoring all these cameras. Like, oh, there's 5 people in the line. We got to get more fries moving. We don't have those resources in these businesses, right? And AI can step in and really augment that business in ways that wasn't possible in the past.
Well, and the best part is it makes life easier also for the workers because now workers are not scrambling. They know ahead that they have to prepare these things. They're not running around and not having an idea what's going on. At all times, they're also aware how much food they have to prepare. And this goes to another part. It reduces food waste because now you're not over preparing. You're preparing to what you need for that store at that particular minute.
So yeah, I think one of the unique challenges, at least in our industry, we do a lot of industrial focus, a lot of manufacturing sites. These are typically older sites, right? They're not brand new factories a lot of the time. And you want to bring that AI capability to an older factory. Is that feasible with the technology we have now?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest growth areas is, this brownfield, this existing infrastructure. How do you upgrade it? Truth is, no one's going to take apart an entire factory to make it smart. If they have equipment there that's been performing perfectly fine for 20 years, why would they do that?
Yeah.
But this is where the OnLogic gateways come in, with your multiple interfaces, your ability to interface into PLCs and traditional older machines. And you'll be able to pull data from that and then digitize them. OnLogic with your partnership with inductive automation, brings in the software piece that really pulls all that data together. At the end of the day, data is not getting less. It's actually getting more. And these older factories, there has to be a way to pull all that data to digitize it. And I think absolutely, this is where this technology gets really exciting. Because now with all this data pulled together, you can start really making sense of these older factories and actually improve efficiencies where before you couldn't see it when you didn't have all that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So when we're looking at these older factories where you might have an older PLC that's controlling this equipment, and you have a PLC and then a gateway and an edge server and the cloud. When we're looking at future and new factories, how do you see that kind of topology of equipment evolving? Are we going to consolidate into soft PLCs with accelerators built in, or do you still expect to see that kind of breakout of functions?
I still see some breakout, but I do see compute moving more and more to the edge. Because one of the key things about moving to the edge is you want to make decisions in real time. When you're doing this defect detection, you want to be able to see what's going on. You want to be able to adjust these machines as you go. You want to do it in real time. So more compute is moving to the edge to do this in real time. But the second part is you also want to take all this correlated data and put it into the cloud. So the hybrid architecture is actually going to become more and more prevalent. You're going to see more and more data being put into the cloud, but only important data that's been processed at the edge and then dashboard at the cloud. So this way, anyone in the enterprise can actually look at the data and make sense of it.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is we have a customer that can take in LiDAR data based on vehicles. LiDAR creates a massive amount of data. Most of it is not useful, But if there is a section of that data that is useful, that can get uploaded to the cloud for future training of models, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And that's where the edge intelligence is so important, because data is not getting smaller. It's actually growing faster and faster and more. The problem is, how do you sort through all this data?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the old days, you have to have a person sit there and actually sort through this,
Yep.
manually. But now with AI, it can automatically sort out and give you what's relevant. And that's how we're going to get efficient and get better at this. I think one of the exciting things that, in our partnership with Alder Lake is how to take an Alder Lake asset and actually create a very scalable platform.
Yep.
I think scalability as a whole, especially in AI, is really important. If you look at the Intel concept of OpenVINO is all about write once, deploy everywhere. You put it on small systems all the way to server class systems, and the code stays the same. In some ways, I think that's what's also so exciting about the Carbon series and what you guys have done is you've created a platform for AI. The platform for AI, you have, high iGPU count on the Alder Lake P that you guys have created, but you guys have also created a scalable system beyond that with your Alder Lake S series, in which now it's scalable with GPUs, PCIe cards, and actually the other big thing is network ports. You guys have put in a ton of network ports because what's running all the vision? It's cameras and PoE cameras and so forth. So I think that's the exciting part is what you've done with Alder Lake, creating the Carbon series. It's become a scalable platform for AI.
Yeah, I think when you look at kind of the low end, we've got Alder Lake P, which is a very compact system, but has that really powerful iGPU, which using OpenVINO, you can really take advantage of that for AI workloads. Then you move up to Carbon 800, and then you really focus on that really high CPU performance, but also, as you said, that expandability and that modularity of I/O. So we've built this. We have 4 systems up to the K804. And when we're looking at these edge AI applications, you're exactly right. It's machine vision, and you got to plug in cameras. So K804 specifically, I think we're up to now 22 PoE cameras that are possible, or 30 USB cameras. Of course, again, you got to right size your AI workload to know, can I actually ingest and compute on all that data? But we do offer that scalable platform where almost any application, we can find a system that fits that edge AI workload.
And that scalability is going to become more and more important at the edge, because a lot of the enterprise, once they get a taste of what they could do with AI, they keep wanting to add more and more features through software and to do more and more AI at the edge.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really excited to see what's ahead for AI in our industries. All the customers that we're working with are pushing really hard to deploy these at the edge. I think that's one of the fascinating things working with edge companies is that we're seeing it in production. These aren't just research projects. We're seeing these actual real benefits out in the field, and it is real.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what we were talking about earlier, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you so much to Max and Johnny for sharing their thoughts there. I never get tired of hearing those two guys talk shop. I'm very pleased to now be joined by OnLogic's Director of Product Enablement, JP Ishak. JP, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Derek. Happy to be here.
Before we get started with any questions from the audience, I did want to just get your reactions to that conversation between Max and Johnny. What were some of the things that you took away from their discussion there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really exciting to see this ecosystem starting to take shape. Between the partnership of OnLogic and Intel, we're really able to provide, as they said, scalable solutions for emerging applications. One thing Johnny said that I really want to emphasize is it's not a matter of when, or excuse me, it's not a matter of if, but when. And in many cases, that when has actually already arrived. It's now. And we're seeing that everywhere from retail analytics to help customer shopping experiences to deployments in industrial automation to help with preventative maintenance and product quality. So it's a really exciting time to see that paradigm taking shape.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think there's so many exciting things being built right now. We certainly see that from our customers.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to take the opportunity to level set a little bit here on a couple of terms that we heard in that discussion for anybody who may not be familiar with them. Johnny mentioned inference there a few times. I just kind of wanted to get your take on inference in general. What does that mean and how does it relate to AI?
Yeah, well, let's take a quick step back and actually touch on that. So when we talk about AI augmented applications, and I think Johnny and Max used the term a couple times. We talk about machine learning or deep learning. That's actually the process of building your model and training it using really high performance computing, cloud computing. The inference piece actually comes when you have that model trained on the object recognition. You know what you want it to do, and you're starting to actually use it in the field for the intended purpose. That's really where the inference comes into play.
Gotcha. So ultimately, there is really no AI without inference. That's the whole idea of using that data to build a model. Makes sense. The other piece that I wanted to kind of touch on quickly, because I know a lot of OnLogic customers deal with this certainly, is the idea of brownfield deployments. Brownfield versus greenfield in particular. Can you talk a little bit about the difference there between those two kind of things?
Yeah. So it would be really nice if when you're deploying a model like this and you're actually beginning to execute your application, that you have all new infrastructure, new factory, new software stack, new hardware, new equipment. And in some, that's really your greenfield. And in some cases, that is the case. More often it's not. And you're really trying to integrate your new technology or new application into existing infrastructure, right? Be that a factory that's been running or a network of factories using durable goods and equipment that have been serving well for many years. That's your brownfield. And that's where it really comes into play that you need to both support that cutting edge technology and performance, but also maintain that support for the existing infrastructure. And that's really something where OnLogic, and through our partnership with Intel, OnLogic really excels, is supporting systems that allow engaging and using that cutting edge performance for the new processor generations and software applications, but also supporting that legacy connectivity through things like Ethernet, COM ports, et cetera.
Gotcha. And I know, I'm sure there are folks out there watching today that might be dealing with that, sort of trying to integrate the old with the new. So it's nice to hear that there are solutions out there to kind of address that issue.
Absolutely.
And speaking of solutions, I wanted to get, Johnny gave a great example there of sort of French fries. Always a great example for anybody thinking about AI. But I also wanted to get your sort of any examples that you can share, or an example that you have of a customer that OnLogic has worked with to actually build one of these solutions.
Yeah. Well, we're fortunate to work with a large and growing number of customers that are really, helping drive this industry and create this ecosystem. One that comes to mind that I always love to bring up is a customer of ours, Data Cadabra.
Such a great name.
It is.
Such a great name.
It is. And it gets better. So what Data Cadabra does, they actually have a mowing system, roadside mowing. And it's equipped with an arm, a computer-powered arm that uses AI. And the system is called their Mohawk, which I absolutely love.
Great work. Great work there too. Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah.
And what that does is that actually enables their mowers to operate and know when to, for instance, process an invasive species and make sure that that's disposed of correctly, as well as when to avoid, for instance, mowing over an animal habitat. And so that kind of application, that's a very tangible, real world example. It's not necessarily something that the average consumer interacts with day to day, but it's very real and it's all around you.
Right. And that's kind of the key of a lot of these solutions, right? And especially a lot of what OnLogic does in terms of putting technology into places that you may not see on your day-to-day, go through your way to work. You may not pass a particular embedded computer, but you may pass, somebody's mowing the median on the highway, and there could be AI in place right there.
Exactly.
So that's very cool to see. So I do want to take time, make sure we have questions from our audience. If we have any out there, our intrepid producer, Sarah, will drop them in for us to take a look at. But a couple of things I did definitely want to address. Exactly. So current and upcoming technologies that are in place or coming down the line that we think this, the AI machine vision market will really be able to take advantage of. What are the things that you're looking at as a potential use there?
Yeah, well, certainly, Max and Johnny talked about our newly released K800 series. You can see one right there. That's released on Intel's 12th generation Alder Lake platform. And we've got more Alder Lake based systems releasing in the coming months. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more opportunity for different types of applications to be served and different levels of kind of scalable hardware. And that scalability is the name of the game, right? When we're talking about both the K800 series and its kind of different variants that can support both the integrated Alder Lake processing and also add in additional peripherals and connectivity, or whether it's one of our smaller gateways, we're going to have a solution that can help our customers enable that. And certainly, down the road, our partnership with Intel allows us to support all the newest generations and take advantage of that performance at the edge and really help our customers continue to maintain their hardware platforms.
Right, because part of scalability is making sure you have a right fit solution for now, but also the ability to evolve over time as your application develops or things like that. We've talked about the 801, but that series of systems actually expands up to the 802, the 803, the 804, and the 804 can actually use a GPU as well. So in talking about where the computing is being done, that's one of the keys, right? Is being able to have that flexibility.
You got it.
Yeah, awesome. So circling back to Alder Lake quickly, what are some of the things about Alder Lake that make that platform particularly exciting for AI and machine vision?
Oh, sure. Well, certainly, I mean, the gains in overall performance and compute, but a couple of the things that make Alder Lake so particularly interesting are the kind of hybrid architecture that combines both performance cores and then sort of more efficient cores, so you can really scale to the workload needed and handle very diverse workloads on the customer side. On a related note, the integrated GPU, the graphics performance of Alder Lake, is unprecedented, really, in its ability to handle AI workloads without necessarily needing an external or additional peripheral. That's something we haven't seen to this level before. As you mentioned, though, it certainly allows in our systems the integration of additional hardware where needed. So it really allows customers to right-size the solution for their exact application.
Right. So it's all about choose your own adventure. What you need the system to do, it can do. Depends on how you architect that structure, but essentially you can make it work for your individual application.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool. So looking to see if there's other questions here. So will supply chain see if I can read this all the way out here. Will supply chain have supply chain issues or components for IPCs, the ability on the new Carbon 800 series? So the question there is, are we seeing supply chain impacts for the delivery of the Carbon 800?
Yeah, no question. Worldwide, we're seeing that impact, regardless of your industry or your product. Our team is working very hard to maintain our supply, and we've actually been very successful in doing that. As I think I said, the K800 is actually released and shipping now. So yeah, we're ready to talk with customers. They can check us out on onlogic.com or call us for more information from our sales teams.
And it's about being flexible there, right? Just like every technology company, every company in the world really right now is trying to figure out what can we provide now, what is going to be coming down the line. So what's exciting is that you can get these base platforms now, but then of course there's going to be new additional features that we'll see roll out over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So definitely contact our team if you have questions about that. And of course you can learn more about the Carbon 800 on our website. Just want to see if there was any other questions in here from the audience before we wrap up for the day. Just waiting to see if Sarah pops anything else in. Anything else you wanted to share with anybody watching today about AI, machine vision? One of the things that I definitely think is important is to understand that the conversations around this market are really one of the keys, because ultimately the things that a system can do are defined by the way you configure it and the way that the way you put the pieces together. Can you talk a little bit about our approach to doing that, how OnLogic works with customers to sort of figure out the right solution to their problems?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that really sets us apart and why we have such a strong partnership with Intel and with our customers, frankly, is the ability to configure exactly the right size solution for your needs and for the longevity of your application. And we will work with you to ensure that we have the right parts, the right availability, the right features and functionality.
Yeah, great. Yeah, questions and answers are the important things to success in this market and really any embedded computing market. All right, so it looks like we're just about out of time. JP, thanks for chatting with us today. It's always a pleasure to be in the room with you and have a conversation. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate that. I want to thank Max and Johnny, of course, for sharing their insights into this market as well. We hope that you've gotten a little bit more of a view inside of AI and machine vision and how it all works, as well as the hardware side of things and how that combined with software can really answer a lot of the challenges and questions that come up in this market. If you do have further questions, reach out to the OnLogic team. Have a great day, and we hope to see you next time on OnLogic Live.
Thank you.
Thanks, JP.